All right, well, we're going to get into it kind of quick tonight because we got a surprise. We're trying to work Chuck in with some sports breaks, some updates. There's a lot of stuff going on. As if you haven't been hiding under a rock, you already know. So we're going to get into that. We're also going to try to get into some callers. We're running a little behind, so we'll try to rip through a couple of things, make way for the phone calls, and we might come on the back end and finish up some things. But obviously, the big story right now is everything that's happening in the NFL. Obviously, I don't know if you follow Schefter or what's some of the other guys. It's Rappaport,
Mortensen,
yeah,
Schefter,
Morton, Clayton.
Clayton, all those so-called experts.
But the lucky guys, though, I mean, they have some of the greatest jobs, that you could ask for.
Oh man, you definitely can't knock them for the way they make their money.
Right. So we're gonna get right into it. And we're hoping tonight that some of the calls reflect the topics that we're getting into because we want to get everybody's takes on what they see. For myself personally, man, we can get into our favorite teams right off the rip as we work our way through some of these transactions and some of this movement. I'm kind of happy that my team, the Washington Redskins, have kind of sat tight and haven't done a whole lot. What about you and the Bengals?
Well, we needed some linebacker depth, so we went out and signed, Mr. AJ Hawk for
Yeah.
Green Bay. I'm not saying that's a big signing, but at least it's a signing who has some experience, adds some depth to the team. I don't think he'll come in and light the world on fire, but he does have Super Bowl winning experience.
Is he a starter?
I think he's probably in the rotation.
Okay.
You got Vontaze Burfict coming off a serious knee injury, and he was like the glue to our defense. And it tells.
Now was that ACL or just
that was he had what surgery, the
the micro
fracture surgery.
Okay,
So
okay.
that's the career ending type deal. So
Right.
he says he's working hard, trying to get back. But so we went out there and added AJ Hawk to the mix. And like I said, he's coming home. He's a local guy. He's down in the Dayton area, so 30, 45 minutes away. So let's see what he does with it. So he'll be playing in front of his family and friends. So hopefully it could be revitalize his career, like a second chance type deal.
By the time he left Green Bay, he was no longer starting.
Not at all, man. He actually maybe started the first 4 or 5 games at Green Bay. But towards the end of the season, he became a liability, especially in pass coverage.
All right.
The NFL is coming to this big passing league now. So the days of the downhill, hard knocker linebackers, it's like, we need them maybe on first down, but on second, third down, not happening.
I just saw that he left the team as their all-time leading tackler.
He was productive, man.
So I had an eye out for him. For my Redskins, because we're still trying to replace the loss of Fletcher a year ago. I think we had a visit from the pot roast cat. I don't know if you saw that.
You did?
Terrence Knighton. Is it
Okay.
Terrence Knighton?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, well, I guess we had him in, and I'm kind of glad because obviously we need a lot of help on the defensive line, but also I was glad that we stayed out of the Sioux sweepstakes.
Right.
Because I didn't think we really needed to spend that big chunk of money on a piece like him. And we'll get into where he actually landed. But I like pot roast coming into play. And then I think we were looking at Cox last I saw. And one last comment before we run through some of these names. I actually saw that Clayton went on a station or some outlet in Washington, D.C., and actually floated out that the Redskins could pursue Mr. Marcus Mariota.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know about that, man. I mean, you got RG3 there. I mean, to me, you're pursuing the same type of quarterback.
That's what I don't get.
That's a player with a question mark.
Less damage on him, though.
Less damage, but still a question mark. Just in my opinion, man. I think if you work with RG3, like I said, tailor the offense around his strengths. If you also get him some weapons, man. I mean, I'm not too keen on the Pierre Garçon, and actually, Deshaun Jackson, no disrespect, but he's like a
One
one-trick pony, man.
Exactly, one trick.
So you need somebody with some true productivity. You have the one tight end that's pretty good, but he doesn't show up every game.
Right.
What's his name?
Jordan Reed.
Jordan Reed. But other than that, man, I wouldn't do that. I would just stay the course. And, a lot of these teams are blowing everything up, as you see in free agency
Right.
and cutting guys. So I would give Gruden advice to just stay in the course and let's see how it turn out after the end of this season.
I'm just shocked because the guy has the same issues about never being under center, questions about reading defenses, calling audibles, running, just running that pro style versus coming from the spread. So this is veering off the script a little bit, but it was very current, and it's a lot of stuff going on today. So we'll get off of our two teams. Revis. We kind of talked last week about Revis. Revis has really, I don't know if we ever really came to a conclusion on it, but Revis is the money man in the NFL.
Oh, he getting paid, man.
And now that he's won his first ring in New England, he's kind of even more of a hired gun. If you were a fan, a New York Jets fan, would you be happy about them bringing him back into the fold?
Yeah, because you have to look at the past history when he was with the New York Jets. I mean, we call it Revis Island. One thing for sure, when he played back in the day, you didn't throw to his side. So, if he can give you any of that type of play, moving forward, you're still getting that same type of caliber player who can help you, in the long run. They paid a lot of money for him.
39 guaranteed.
That's a lot of money, man. But
5 years.
Yeah, it's the market, man. That's just the market for a shutdown corner.
Do you think that they jumped the gun? I mean, it's only 2 days. What is it? Yesterday was when the gates opened. I'm just amazed that no one. I mean, you just wait back. I mean, maybe you couldn't wait, I guess. But I say they're not in a position really. They can't win next year.
Nope.
So I don't know, man. I'm just glad that my team wasn't in the. I'm glad he didn't sit out there a long time because maybe Daniel Snyder, would have had some thoughts about going and getting him. I just think if I'm a Jets fan, I guess I'm happy, but he's got a ring now. If he finishes out this contract, I saw some figures that he could take home for his career, a total of $155 million as a cornerback, and that's kind of unheard of.
That's crazy, man. I mean, who's his agent? Because he's definitely doing a job for Revis. Like you said, I wouldn't want him on my team due to, how much he would account against the salary cap. And one thing for sure, he'll never be on a team like Cincinnati because we don't pay people like that.
Not at all.
We didn't want to pay Jonathan Joseph, his nice raise contract. So I don't have to ever worry about stuff like that, man.
Got you. Any concerns about the injury? I mean, he had a solid season last year, and comeback year for him. Any concerns on that repaired knee?
The thing about, Revis, we have to admit, he has some injuries in the past, but one thing about him, he seems to be a hard worker. He doesn't say a lot. He's a real good professional when it comes to taking care of his body, taking care of his, learning his craft and studying. And also about him, we know that if he's healthy, he's going to come and play and give his all. But ultimately, it comes down to the doctors. I sure hope that the doctors, scoped him out,
right?
Made sure he was nothing in there was tender, because he just got paid again.
So moving along, let's go to the opposite coast, out west to the 49ers. Now, I don't know about you, because y'all did get thumped by them.
Yes,
as an organization or a franchise.
Yeah.
I don't mean to bring up any old bad
old school Super Bowls.
Right. But I was glad. I was a fan back in the day. I mean, that was one of my teams that I kept an eye on because as a franchise, they ran such a well-oiled machine. I mean, such a tight ship. And, they had the gold, that red and gold, and I just kept an eye on them. I mean, obviously, you as a fan, you want your team to be operating at the same level. So to see Harbaugh leave, this Tom Sula guy is brought in as the head coach. Justin Smith is retiring reportedly. Patrick Willis retires at age 30. I know he had an injury-ridden year this past season, and then we also had Crabtree's out there too, right?
Yes, sir.
IU Potty's out there. He actually went to Arizona already.
Yep.
Have we seen anything? And it's reports out there. I know Colin Cowherd was making fun of a Houston outlet that was reporting it, but there's reports out there that Kaepernick could be gone after next year. What is going on that this team is in such a free fall after finally getting back up off the bottom of the division?
Man, I think NFL football is just changing, man. I mean, I think the teams have a 3 to 4 year window.
Okay.
And, San Francisco, they had some success, but they never were able to get over the hump and actually win that Super Bowl, for the franchise. I think they had a good run. It's kind of shocked me.
Speaking of run, Gore's also gone too.
Gore is gone. I think where did he go to Indy yet?
Indy.
Yep. And I just think that, it shocks me that they're giving up on Kaepernick so early, because the reason with the quarterbacks, man, there's not really a lot of good quarterbacks out there to begin with, Here's a young guy who's had some success. And the thing about playing quarterback, whether it's Kaepernick, whether it's Russell Wilson, whether it's Andy Dalton, it's about the talent that you put around those guys.
Right.
Those guys are not bona fide. I'm going to go out here and sling this ball. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady type quarterbacks, Drew Brees. They're not that kind of quarterback. They're a system quarterback. So I think that what they need to do is focus on getting, like I said, even with RG3, Kaepernick, they need to put some weapons around him, in this new revitalization type, plan that they're working on.
Yeah, I never was a big fan of their wide receivers as big play guys. Anquan has aged. Crabtree's never really been what we thought he was going to be coming out of Texas Tech.
Yep.
Manningham had a couple of big catches, but never anything consistent. I think they brought Brandon Lloyd back in the fold for a year or two. Not Eric. What's the big tight end?
Vernon Davis.
He's been up and down. So I don't know. I just I feel sorry for those fans out there, because with my team kind of being a cellar dweller perennially, here this team that's just 2-3 years removed from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And now everybody's, just from the changes that have already been made, they're projected to bring up the bottom of that division next year. So that's kind of sad.
Yeah, let me throw this question at you. Do you think that, with Harbaugh leaving, and we know that, the players love playing for him, he was a great motivator.
Well, that's kind of disputed. It's mixed stories about them liking him or not.
You mean that the players?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Why would everybody just leave like that, though?
That's why I'm thinking that the stories that it was a rift with him. I think he was a player's coach.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. I think some of these guys walking out, I think that's a reflection of, we don't want to roll with this new regime.
Right.
So I don't know, man. I just, like I said, that's one of the pillars of the league as far as, the key franchises.
Definitely.
And I just would hate to see them return to them losing ways under some very weird looking circumstances. To keep moving along, because there's a couple names here we got to get through.
Just real quick before we go through with San Francisco, I want to give just a special word for Mr. Patrick Willis. Like you mentioned, he's retiring. Read a story on him about he's his feet. And
right.
it's kind of ailing him a little bit. And, he thought that it might be best for him to go ahead and hang up the cleats and just focus on other ventures. And I just want to say that that's huge for a guy who, I'm not saying he was still playing at the top of his game, but he still was a productive NFL player. To leave that money behind and to be more focused on your health and be more focused on spending time with your family and just thinking about life in general, I think that's huge. And I think a lot of other players in the game, where we're complaining, a lot of players are complaining about injuries,
right.
after the game and concussions and et cetera. I'm not saying that, you follow Patrick Willis's model, but what I'm saying is I just say that's good for a person to recognize that, hey, I'm done with the game. I want to continue on with something else in my life. And I'm just thinking about my health, and I really can appreciate something like that.
Right. We're going to get into some other early retirements But we want to move along to the biggest fish out there, which was Sue. We mentioned him earlier. Sue signed the 58. No, he signed. It was over 60 million with Miami, but when. But does that propel Miami? Are they a player in the AFC East now, even for a wild card push?
Yeah, we talked about the AFC East, I think, a couple weeks ago. Last week, we had mentioned that Buffalo was one of my surprise teams that possibly can make some noise out in the AFC East. I always thought Miami were right there. You know, they're always a 500 team, right on the cusp of making the playoffs. With Miami, it just comes down, can they score enough points? So, you know, with this Sue signing, it's kind of shocking to me because I thought their defense was pretty stout as is.
Right.
But I guess, you know, they wanted to make a splash. And, hey, I'm just going to go with, you know, what you mentioned 3 weeks ago, that a lot of teams are following this Seattle model where, you know, you have the stout defense. You have the quarterback, Tannehill, who can make a couple key throws or make a couple key plays in the game, and maybe that'll get you over the hump because signing Sue, you do know the one thing for sure. He's going to take up 2 players, possibly 3 players on the offensive line every play. You know you're going to have to game plan for him every play. So he's definitely a difference maker. Is he a $114 million difference maker? That's to be seen.
So was it 60 million? Oh yeah, it was 60 million guaranteed.
Right.
114 was the total.
Yes, sir. Crazy.
Ooh, that's painful.
That's very painful, man. I mean, but the only thing about it, I guess he's in the prime of his career. We do know that even though he has some antics on the field where he does a couple things that are, you know, not let's say player friendly, go ahead and make a splash of that nature. But you know, I just don't know. I'm not really sold on Coach Philbin as a coach for Miami Dolphins. I think maybe he needs to get more out of his team. And actually, if he's able to do that, I think they're right there. Like you mentioned, they're on that AFC East. You have the Patriots out there. But other than that, I mean, you really don't have any other team. You got Buffalo, who's up and coming, and then you have the Jets, right?
Right.
So I think if they can, you know, catch a few breaks, score a few more points, I think they'll be right there where they need to be.
I heard part of the key, and we can move on after this because we got a couple more names to get through. But I heard part of the key is that, in theory, Sue should be able to push up the middle against Tom Brady because you know where he's going to be. And maybe this $114 million is well worth getting that pressure up in his face and making them, you know, adjust that dink and dunk stuff. And, you know, that's what they're just trying to do, I guess. And is a guy at work that made a great point. And another, somebody else reiterated today on one of the shows. You have to build your team to win your division. So whatever's been tripping you up every year in pursuit of winning your division, that's what you have to go out and address first. So, you know, kudos to Ross, the owner down there, making a big splash. He got burned 2 years ago in free agency, and he's back at it again. We'll see how that turns out. I think they need a running back.
Yeah, it would be nice to get a nice key running back because I remember who was the last good running back they had? Ricky Williams, maybe?
Yeah, he had like one inspired year there.
That's about it. So, but I think you have to win your division first. So when you think about the AFC East, you think about New England Patriots, rightfully so, Super Bowl champs. One thing about New England, they have Tom Brady, and Tom Brady does not like traffic around his feet. You know,
right,
you can rush from the outside, he can step up in the pocket, he make noise. But when you get that traffic around his feet and he starts dancing, that's when he throws them interceptions. So bring in Sue.
Like I said, you know, we'll see how that plays out. At least the fan base can get excited. They can move some merchandise with the Sue jerseys. And then, to your point, his on the field stuff might be ornery or nasty or questionable, but I think he's a cerebral cat outside or off the field, and I think that's really what you want. But before we move on, I just remember one thing I wanted to bring up. One of my favorite guys that I check out throughout the day is Mad Dog Unleashed, Adam Shine. Would you agree with this? He made the assertion that of all-time free agents, that his top 3 were Peyton Manning, the Minister of Defense, Reggie White, going to Green Bay back in the day, and now Sue. Is he on that level?
That's very good. I will say this. Sue, if he continues to play the game the way he plays it, he will be a Hall of Famer. And that's through all the personal fouls, all the fines, because he's a rare breed. I mean, even if you go back to his college days, Sue did a play in college that was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
They said hike. He knocked down 2 offensive linemen on their backside. Then the fullback was trying to come through the line. He knocked him down, and then he went straight to the running back.
Right.
Who knocks down 4 people in one play? You mean to tell me nobody stopped his momentum? And the thing about it, he did the same thing at the pro level.
Right.
The guy is dominant. He's a special talent. And if he gets any kind of help on the D-line, you know, you have Cameron Rake on the outside, but if you get any kind of help next to him at a D tackle, they're going to be unstoppable.
Got you. So we're going to move on to a few of these other names. McCoy went to the Bills, right? Speaking of the AFC East. Are you shocked that now, and I'm bringing this up because the criticism was DeMarco had all his carries last year. There was some injury issues and concerns with him. But Shady, from what I understand, has led the league in touches, you know, and carries over the last 4 or 5 years. McCoy might be a little older, but why did he get rewarded with this big money? And DeMarco's own team that he directly helped get to, you know, the second round of the playoffs. Why is this man still out here trying to, you know, waiting for a deal to get done?
Yeah, well, the thing about, you know, and DeMarco Murray, the reason why he hasn't got paid yet is because you have Dez Bryant and you have Tony Romo. You have to pay. Tony Romo's already getting paid. I think you mentioned that he was, is it 37 or 27 million counted against the salary?
I thought it was 27.
So he's being counted 27 million against the salary cap. So you look at that, and then you look at, you know, you got Dez Bryant who's being franchised this year. So that's another huge chunk, maybe 14, 15 million. I'm not sure. So when you look at, you know, Shady McCoy getting paid in Buffalo, and I can remember maybe 2 days ago, Shady was, you know, all whining and didn't want to go.
Guaranteed him over 30,
right? So it goes to show you money.
Go to work.
Money is everything. And they don't really have, you know, a lot of big name players out there who's getting paid. I mean, they don't have any quarterbacks. Their wide receiver, their best wide receiver is a rookie, right?
Second year.
So he's going to be on his, you know, he's still in his rookie contract. So, I mean, it's all about timing, man. And the thing about it is, I mean, I want DeMarco Murray to get paid, and I believe he should get paid, but Dallas is just paying so many other people right now. It's hard to, you know, break the bank on his contract.
Well, you know, the rumor is, or the reports are that he removed all of the Dallas Cowboy mentions and went to an end. A couple of these other moves. The shocker from yesterday was Graham, the Saints sending Jimmy Graham to the NFC champions, the Seahawks.
Right.
I think I walked in the break room and saw that going across the bottom of the screen, and I was dumbfounded.
Yeah, man. Let me tell you what. If you want to talk about some winners and losers of free agency, you know, as early as it may be, it's definitely, you know, well, Seattle, because due to the trade, it was a trade, right?
Yeah, they gave up, I believe, a first rounder.
So it was a trade to, you know, Graham to Seattle. And you know who's happy right now is Mr. Russell Wilson. What a red zone threat to have as somebody who's 6'7", 6'6", whatever it may be, and can be able to jump, you know, almost 40-inch vertical leap. You know, it's a big win for Seattle. Just think if they had Jimmy Graham that last play when, you know, they were on the goal line trying to win a Super Bowl. So it's a shocker, man. I don't know if was Graham not happy being in New Orleans, because I know he lost a big arbitration ruling when he wanted to be considered a wide receiver, and they did still rule him as a tight end. So that kind of affected his pay. So I don't know if he was upset or whatnot, but I just think once again, man, these teams are really turning over their roster, man. It's just shocking how so many good players are being traded, are being cut. It really shocks me how many players are out there going to be in New Jersey's productive players. And it's just I guess the way the game is going.
Some thoughts that Breeze, his there was some decline in his play, some issues with his arm strength declining or decreasing. So it's words or rumblings that he could be on the move. To keep moving, we can come back and wrap all this up. But Gore, as we know, we already mentioned, went to Indy for pretty decent money. Foles and Bradford were swapped in Philly and St. Louis. Macklin went to KC, and I thought that was about going back to be with Big Red, Andy. But then I realized he's from that area anyway, right?
Yes, sir.
Being a Missouri product. So that's kind of going back home for him. When we wrote the script, Andre Johnson hadn't signed, but now he has signed, I think, 3 years for $21 million. So it's a lot of movement. Right now we're up against the clock. Like I said, some people are set to call in at 8 o'clock. So if we break away from this unexpectedly, we're just trying to get these calls in. What is he, 30? I know he's been in the league 13 years.
Yeah.
Is he still a number one wide receiver? Can him and Gore said they can get it done, and they're a Super Bowl team.
Well, I'm gonna give a veteran his just due. He's the number one wide receiver until he's proven differently.
He had 900 and
exactly.
950 yards, 80-something catches. So,
who was his quarterback?
Who has been his quarterback the last 3 years?
There we go. So, he's still productive. He's still, making big plays. He just doesn't have – he wasn't, had the team that he, had in the past down in Houston. But is he still number one? In my book, I'm a definitely go to him. So now you have Andre Johnson, who can, man the middle of the field, sometimes beat you deep, and T.Y. Hilton. I mean, that looks kind of formidable. And I know I said last week, if you give Andrew Luck any type of talent or any type of true weapons, he can play, man, because he takes so many chances, and people are down on him because he has a lot of interceptions. But who is he throwing to? I mean, besides T.Y. Hilton, you're throwing to Kobe Fleener. You're handing the ball off to Boom Heron or Richardson. So now you upgrade that with Gore, who's a proven veteran, and also Johnson. Right. I think they're definitely one of the winners in the early free agency period.
Any concerns on Gore? I mean, 10-year running back, and his production dropped some last year too. Any thought? I mean, I like Gore, and he's been a workman guy, great player. No off the field stuff. I wish he could get it done and try to take another shot, in the playoffs and even possibly the Super Bowl.
Yeah, man, the thing about Gore and any of these running backs, Wood, in my opinion, is, hey, okay, I may not be that true workhorse, but give me 15, 18 touches a game, and I can give you your, 70, 80 yards, rushing the ball, catch the ball for another 30. I got 100 all-purpose yards. That's a great week for me, man. So I think Gore can still give you that. And like I said, when you have Andrew Luck, you don't have to worry about running the ball 30, 40 times a game, right? Because Andrew Luck, Colin Kaepernick, it's a big difference, man, when you come to quarterback play. Let's just be honest.
I agree. We are just we're just hitting 8 o'clock. You got any updates for us, Chuck? We can get into them real quick while we see what happens on the phone lines. Go ahead.
What's up, everybody? Chuck here with the sports update for you. To start things off, we had the Cavs running over the Mavs last night. 33-point lead. LeBron James, 27 points. He took the headband off and he went off himself. We had the Gasol brothers going up against each other. Pau Gasol's Bulls kind of hitting a little bit of a slump. They fell to Mark's Grizzlies. Mark put up 23 points, outscoring his brother by 10, helping the Grizzlies hold on to a 2-game lead over the Rockets for the Southwest Division. Warriors captured their third straight win over the Clippers in a 106-98 win Sunday. Kevin Harvick dominated at Las Vegas as he led 142 laps on his way to a victory. And OSU embarrassed by Wisconsin in men's basketball kind of leaves us Ohio State fans wondering if they're going to be able to make a decent run or not. Back over to you guys.
We got on the line. You with the Fifth Quarter Sports and Entertainment Show.
This is Doug.
What's up, Doug? Where you calling from, man?
Calling from Dayton.
Dayton. What you got for us tonight, man? It's a lot of stuff going on.
First of all, Des Bryant made that catch.
We could spend 30 minutes on that. Well, what's next?
What do you want to talk? Baseball? Talk baseball, basketball, NBA? What do you want to talk?
What's your baseball thoughts, man? Because we've been a little lax on baseball. So what you got for us?
Baseball, huh? You do a little Pete Rose if you want.
That's funny. That was one thing we were gonna hit on tonight. What you got on Pete?
It's funny because I put on Facebook today. I'm not a Cincinnati Reds guy. I'm not a fan. I'm a New York Yankee fan. This new commissioner came out and said that he one of his first priorities is he wants to talk to Pete Rose, which I think is a good sign, to give this man the credit that he should get for what he did on the field. Not what he did off the field, but what he did on the field.
Right.
The man has a prestigious record when, in a time and era when there were no PEDs, there were no steroids or anything.
Went to work every day.
Charlie Hustle, 100%.
Right.
I'm not a Pete Rose fan as a person. It kind of rubs me the wrong way. But what he did on the field, him as a person shouldn't be. It shouldn't be penalized against him for what he did on the field.
I agree. It's unfortunate. I don't think he's always done enough. These last 5-10 years, I don't think some of his comments or the way that he's carried himself, I don't think it's always made it easy for everybody to like him. But I think in waiting for a chance to be forgiven, he's had to earn a living. And so, maybe that was maybe some of his antics and stuff are a product of, just trying to earn a living.
100% agree with you. 100%.
So you mentioned the Yankees. We kind of got into the Yankees last week. You think A-Rod is going to be a distraction, or you looking for his contributions this year?
Oh man, I don't know what to expect from that guy. I'm a very passionate, diehard, lifelong New York Yankee fan. Any real Yankee fan out there will tell you they're not an A-Rod fan. He's just not. He's not that guy. But also as a fan of the team, of course, I hope he does well. I hope he gets the clutch hits and everything. It won't make me a fan of his per se, but I mean, if he's going to help my team, do it the honest way. Because my biggest problem with A-Rod is this: he's an attention-seeking guy, and that's a big turnoff to me. He always needs to be in the spotlight. Always needs to be in the news. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. I just don't like the guy. But do I want to see him do well? Of course. If he's on my team, I don't make the rules. So, go for it and everything. Do I think he's going to be a distraction? I think he's going to be a distraction? I think he's going to surprise a lot of people and not be a distraction. I think he's going to tuck his tail between his legs this year and just shut up and play baseball and try to get that attention in a different way this year.
Okay. What are you excited about it for the? Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. You go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, what's your projections for the season? I mean, they didn't finish well. Last year, Baltimore came out of there surprisingly, and Toronto led for the lion's share of the season. Or they did well. So, you think your boys can get back in it, or what? I
have two outtakes on that. Either they're going to be really horrible, worse than last year, or they're going to surprise a lot of people because they have the talent on the team. If you get CeCe Sabathia, who came into camp over 300 pounds, which as a fan, that's what I want. He's a workhorse that way. He lost so much velocity. He lost so much velocity last year where he was just a completely different pitcher. Where CeCe could stand for now chocolate cake or Charleston Chew since he's been eating a lot and everything. got that weight back on, which is a good thing, a positive thing for me as a fan. What he does off the field to get himself healthy and everything. As a man, I respect that and everything. But me as a fan, you got Nova, who's coming off Tommy John surgery, who can bounce right back and be a great pitcher. You got Pineda, Pine Tar, whatever. Bring it. That doesn't matter. Everybody does it.
Right.
Don't be an idiot and put it on your neck this year.
Hey, if you're not cheating, if you're not cheating, you're not trying to win.
I'm old school. I don't like cheating, but times have changed, I guess. But you got Teixeira, who changed his whole diet. Who I'm expecting big things from him this year. McCann behind the plate. I'm expecting.
Do you think he can get? Do you think that Teixeira can get to high 20s in home runs? I mean, I was missing his bat a little last year.
I do. I think he could do that. My biggest problem with him is getting that batting average up.
Right.
I mean, what did he bat last year? I think he batted .216 last year. That's not
bad.
acceptable. That's
not for a guy that's been in the league, as long as him.
Yeah, granted, he's coming off a wrist injury and everything. I don't want to make excuses. If you're not 100% play, then you got to tell coach, hey, I want what's best for the team. Put Cervelli behind the plate last year, even though Cervelli went to Pittsburgh. Put Cervelli behind the plate. Let McCann get some first base. Let me take the day off. I'm not feeling it today. Right. But easier said than done. You got McCann, who I'm expecting a huge year from. Huge. Ellsbury, who's going to do Ellsbury things. I like Ellsbury. You have Chase Headley.
Is Beltran still on there?
What's that?
Is Beltran still around?
Beltran's still on, but I'm not. He's getting up there in age. What's he? 36, 37 years old.
Right.
Beltran's biggest thing is get him to play in October, and he shines.
Exactly.
He's a great.
Who's your guy?
What's that?
You were getting ready to move on to Henry?
Chase Headley. I think the guy's a good clubhouse guy. I think I like that sign that the Yankees made. And, that's pretty much telling A-Rod, he's not playing third base. We just signed this guy for 4 years. So I think $52 million. But, it should be an interesting year. I mean, I'm a fan. Win or lose, you're going to hear me screaming New York Yankees, New York Yankees, New York Yankees. They're a very important part of my life.
Right. Any football takes? We got about a couple more minutes for you. Any of these trades? I don't know if you're a Jets-Giants fan, but Revis is back in the Big Apple. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a big middle finger to New England for the Jets to do that. But I mean, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to pay Revis.
Right.
But actually, I just heard something within the last couple hours. It was on ESPN that DeMarco Murray. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, actually. Diehard Dallas Cowboy fan.
Okay.
Born and raised in New Jersey. Diehard Dallas Cowboy fan. Grew up 5 miles from Giant Stadium, but
gotcha.
The New York Giants. But DeMarco Murray, and whether this is hearsay or not, I heard it on ESPN, or I read it on ESPN rather. He actually physically called Chip Kelly, the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, and said, "I like your system."
Wow.
Which,
okay.
If you're asking me nowadays in today's game, the running back is a little bit of an overrated position right now. Not to say that 5 years things change. You know how the NFL goes. But something. If I was the Dallas Cowboys, I would make DeMarco Murray my top priority because look at the difference a running game made for them last year.
We just got done talking about that.
Granted, they have a stupidly good offensive line, where if you get above average running back, he's going to shine there. But you get a physical running back like him. I mean, he set Dallas Cowboy records last year. He outran Emmitt Smith in a single season. Right. And I don't think he's that injury prone guy that a lot of people say he is. He just happened to get a couple injuries. Look at the way he shined last year. I think he's a priority he should be a priority to the Cowboys.
Got you. Hey, we want to get on to some other callers. What you got a last final take besides that Des Bryant catch?
He made that catch. That's all I got to say. He made that catch. I'm still bitter about it. Oh my God, man! It's one of the moments I'll never forget.
Okay. Anything before you go, man?
Nah, man. That's it, man. I appreciate you having me.
All right, man. Hopefully you call back in next week.
Will do.
All right, thanks, Doug.
Take care.
So we're working in some calls here, trying to also get through our topics for the night. So bear with us a little bit. We tried to get some updates from Chuck again, and we're still not a go in that area, but we may work some in, being a little creative. Jay, we were just finishing up some of the discussion on the big moves. We just finished with Andre Johnson. Is he still a number one? I just want to drop, he did. In the last 2 years, he did have 1,415 yards. And dropped down to 950 last year. But there was a myriad of problems going on there. Like you mentioned, rotation at quarterback. I think, the defense couldn't do everything down there. So I'm rooting for him. And I mean, being local, I mean, it's always good when the Bengals and Browns games aren't on. It's always good to catch an Indianapolis game. So, shout out to Irsay for working a little magic for a Midwest team. One thing that you mentioned, and I had a couple of thoughts on it. I'd like to get into it with you. What is really going on in Philadelphia?
Man, it's early in the week I felt one way, and now that I'm watching the NFL unfold with all these people changing teams, I just think one thing for sure, we all know this: Chip Kelly is an egomaniac. I mean,
He's looking like it.
Yeah, he likes control. And that's okay, because really any leader or a lot of your coaches are, very egotistical individuals, and that's nothing wrong with that. But I will tell you this: he's making all these moves. He's it kind of reminds you of his moves is like a fantasy league football. You know how teams are going from players are going from this place to this place, and they're trading.
I'm gonna sit him this week.
Right. He's just doing so many different things. But he is coaching in Philly, and that's one sports town where they do not accept losing too kindly. So this will be his year number 3.
Year number 3. Coming off 2 10-win seasons.
Coming off 2 10-win seasons. Did not make the playoffs last year, right?
No.
And he really has to show and convince this fan base that what he's doing will work, because like I said, the guy is, what are we playing, Madden? He's just trading everybody, cutting everybody. But we'll see. You're going to have to really compete, because Dallas will be another tough out.
Right.
One thing about the NFC East, period, it's just a competitive division. You know how you guys, you're an NFC East guy. You know how you guys beat up on each other.
It's a good market usually there. So you're right. It stays pretty competitive even when it is down.
So I think Chip Kelly probably needs to, start showing these guys that, hey, I'm the new coach in town, but they need to start winning more games and making some noise in the playoffs, because, the beloved Andy Reid, he got them to championships. I'm talking about NFC championships. Now, I'm not saying he went to Super Bowls, year after year, but he did, have that fan base knowing that, we're going to win a bunch of games and we're going to make some noise in the playoffs. So that's to be seen with Chip Kelly.
I got a couple of things. I'll pose the question and you can weigh in.
Okay.
I already mentioned Foles going to St. Louis, Bradford and his series of injuries coming to Philadelphia, not known as a mobile quarterback, but I guess his head coach is now, his former head coach in St. Louis is now the offensive coordinator in Philly. So there's some familiarity there, and there's some belief. Schumer believes in him still. Jordan Matthews had a great year last year as a rookie, and all-time SEC, reception leader, and performed great there for 3 years as a starter. Does Chip just believe I have my pieces in place to at least go 8-8, 9-7, 10-6?
Hey, like we just talked about, man, Chip Kelly is in Philadelphia. You have to win games and you have to make some noise in the playoffs. If Chip Kelly was in Cincinnati, 8-8, sell out your stadium, make some money, that'll be okay. But it's not okay for Philadelphia, because, he's trading and getting away and cutting some of the players that were the core of the football team. You know, and like you just mentioned, over the past 2 seasons, they won 20 games. Usually when you win 20 games in 2 seasons, you want to at least try to stay the course, and maybe add a few pieces to get better. This guy is getting rid of all of those guys and actually, you know, trying to start with something new.
All right, we got another call coming in. On with the fifth quarter of the Sports and Entertainment Show. Who we got on the line?
Corey Bass, son.
What's up? Where you calling from, CB?
Richmond, Virginia. Hosting in Richmond right now.
Okay. What you got for us tonight, man? It's a lot of stuff going on. Anything you want to hit on in particular?
I mean, just really looking at this Sue, man, the Sue trade, and becoming the highest paid NFL defensive player got to be a big deal, man. I mean, they spent a lot of money for this guy, man, and he make plays, but don't necessarily, toughest team in the playoff games. So I don't know. Is that money? I think the money is deserved, but will it really have an impact, or will he have an impact in terms of propelling that team to the next level?
I mentioned earlier one of the guys that I listened to on Sports Talk Radio. He listed Sue as the third biggest all-time free agent behind Reggie White and Peyton Manning. Do you think he deserves to be in that? I mean, regarded at that type of level?
Man, third all time. I mean,
this was just one guy's opinion.
Right. And I'm kind of looking at it from a standpoint of, that's if the NFL was set up back in the day like it's set up now, without a question, he would not be considered the third, biggest free agent signing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I just think, there's been some guys out there that I put up some pretty decent numbers, man. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure about that one, but I can see how, he can be in talks, in the top 3 or top 5 ever. I mean, I could see that. Hey, I'm gonna tell you what's really, really surprising me is that Brandon Marshall trade.
Okay. We got into that a little bit last week, but so Percy's out of there. They brought in the former Cincinnati Bengal quarterback, Fitzpatrick.
Right.
They brought him in, and then Revis is back. I mean, what do you think? What you got on the Brandon Marshall? I mean, do you think they can get to 8-8, 9-7?
And I think they'll be over 500. I don't really want to put a number either way. I think they'll be over 500. I mean, to be quite honest, they can swing either way, man. They can probably be a really good football team, and be a 10, 11 win team, or will it be the same old Jets and, barely break even? So,
you think Geno needs to stay at the helm, or do they need to look to address that in the draft?
Well, the sad thing for the Jets is that they addressed it in the last 2 drafts, if I'm not mistaken, So that's what's really kind of, disappointing, man. The NFL is a tough place to exist in, and the quarterback position, man, is probably the most disregarded position in the NFL. I mean, you have guys playing and making plays, and fans call them trash and garbage, yet they starting, on an NFL team. So Geno got to make some plays, man. And he's going into the 3rd year now.
Right.
I guess this would be a real defining moment in his career, in terms of where he goes from here. But to be quite honest, man, the Jets got a whole lot more problems than that quarterback. I
agree. Any other thoughts you got, man? I mean, we got NBA race tightening up or coming to a close here. I think, it's maybe a little over 10 games left for most teams. Last week, boxing was back on network TV. We also got the tournament in college hoops getting ready to jump off. Any other things?
Oh, I'm just excited about college basketball. I mean, to be quite honest, the only time I get excited about college basketball is in March. But I mean, we got some really tough teams. I think this is going to be a really interesting tournament, man. But I know we switched over to basketball, but just real quick, how did the Colts get these guys that they got in these last few days?
I think they want to go.
Go ahead.
I think they want to go play with that young stud down there that they see needs some help.
Well, they got a lot better in the last 2 days, dude. Like, they done won about 3 or 4 more games just in the last 2 days.
Okay. Anything else, man? We got a couple more minutes. We're gonna try to work in a few other callers.
No, man, I'm just hoping I'm hoping Washington can get it together. I got a bunch of homies that just love those guys.
Redskins, you talking about?
Excuse me?
Redskins, you talking about?
Yeah, I don't mean using that word. Yeah, the Washington.
Okay, the professional football team.
Yeah, the professional football team, the Washington dudes.
Okay, who is your, in case we hear from you in the future, man, who is your pro team?
Oh, that's the Cincinnati Bengals. No doubt about it. I'm from Cincinnati,
Okay.
Right with those guys.
I see they kind of sat tight through a lot of and obviously that's Mike Brown's, that's kind of his MO. You happy? I know they re-signed Ray, and Jay just mentioned that AJ Hawk is back in town.
Yeah,
you like what they're doing?
Man, I do. I do. But the Bengals always have an opportunity to be in the hunt, specifically these last 3 or 4 years, man. It's just boiled down to making plays and winning games against quality teams, like, those championship caliber teams where we show up for those teams. And, Andy Dalton get a lot of criticism, man. But, the guy's been, all pro. What? He's been to the playoffs every season he's been in the NFL. And to be quite honest, we have got people saying that's not enough, but it could be one of the other, 16 NFL teams that, gets nowhere. So, it's tough being a quarterback in the NFL.
It is. Hey, well, we appreciate you calling in, man. We hope you check us out in the future and, call back in once different things get to rocking.
You already know, man. You take it easy. You got to take it easy over that way.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
All right, so like I mentioned, thanks for Corey calling from Virginia. Like I mentioned, it's a lot of stuff underway in Philadelphia. Like you just noted, Chip is a bit of an egotistical guy. So I mentioned, Bradford's coming in, not really known as a mobile quarterback, but he can stand tall in the pocket. Was one of the best QBs in the nation coming out of high school, great in college, or pretty good college numbers. Jordan Matthews, can he fill in the gap of a Mac? Can they move him into Macklin's place and just keep things rolling?
Yeah, that's the thing about it, man. Kelly, I've read and I've heard a lot of players who actually played for him. He's going to put you in a situation to be successful. Kelly's forte is getting athletic players in space so they can make plays.
Right.
So if those guys want to go to a place where, you're going to be able to make some plays, you're going to have some one-on-ones, the guy is a mastermind offensively. We cannot discredit what he's been able to do, from the college and translate to the NFL game. The guy knows what he's doing. The thing about it is sometimes you can outthink yourself and be too smart. At first it was, Kelly was coming in with this new high-powered offense and a square on his head.
I was checking out some callers on ESPN before I came over to do the show, and the Philly fans were on Philly radio. They were irate.
Believe it.
He's definitely only got these 16 games probably to get out of town in one piece quickly. You think Bradford can get it done in that offense or not? We haven't seen much of the kid the last couple of years, so I don't know one way or the other, but he threw a nice ball when he was healthy.
The thing about Bradford, I mean, like you just hit the nail on the head. If he can stay healthy, he can be Nick Foles. You know what I mean?
Right, I agree with that.
Nick Foles is not a world beater. I mean, he's a decent quarterback, but like I said, it's all about your situation. And I will admit, Kelly's offense can make you look a little bit better than what you truly are. I mean, if you just dissect his plays and actually look how he is able to always. Earlier, he's brought this fantasy football league mentality to the NFL. He's won 20 games in the last 2 seasons. Only thing about it in Philly, they're used to winning more and going deep in the playoffs. And NFC East football it's a huge rivalry, man.
Right.
You can have a team that's 2-10 playing a team that's 10-2, and a 2-10 team will win at that. Football is very intense. It's very competitive. So we'll see.
Now, one story that I came across on Bleacher Report, and it seems foolish, and we try to stay away from the buffoonery here on the Fifth Quarter Show, but something got mischaracterized, or some words got misconstrued, and I'm amazed that this actually took traction and has some legs. But I guess Mr. Stephen A. Smith said some things about the brothers on the team in Philly, and he didn't even say what it got twisted into. But basically, it boiled down to people saying that Stephen A. alleged that there might be some racism behind Chip Kelly letting these different black players walk while Riley Cooper is still on the team, and he hasn't been a world beater. I don't know if you saw that story. I know what Stephen A. did say was that the brothers in the locker room are probably looking around at one another like, what's going on, or could I be next? It really had nothing to do with color whatsoever. It was just, he just was saying that, the brothers on the team were looking at the talent that was leaving and that they weren't trying to retain, and they just were concerned. Do you think that that's just much ado about nothing?
Guess what? I'm going to be honest with you, and we don't have the same platform as Stephen A. and his show, but Chip Kelly, he is racist, and I'm not saying he's racist when it comes to color. He's racist probably with anybody who has a huge personality, somebody who, is very outspoken. I don't think he wants that kind of player on his team.
Okay.
Like I mentioned, man, I believe in reading some things also. He's just an egomaniac. He likes to have his thumb on a team. Mistaken, I believe he even got rid of a general manager or somebody upstairs. That's just the kind of person he is. He's racist against anybody or anything that's against what he's trying to accomplish. And I can't knock him for that. I don't care if you're black, white, Latino, whatever it may be. But I don't think that story that, Stephen A. Smith said about, Riley Cooper, because here's the thing about Riley Cooper, and I say this all the time. When the situation actually happened with Riley Cooper, we should have been all in uproar back then. We should have let that story carry legs a lot back then when it happened. But when Michael Vick came out and said that, he accepts Riley Cooper, it was dead.
Right.
If Stephen A. Smith had a real strong conviction with that, and he thought Chip Kelly was racist about letting Riley Cooper, stay on the team, he should have been holding up the flag and holding the Riley back then. Then not only did Riley Cooper stay on the team, Riley Cooper got paid again from the team, a new contract.
Right.
Stephen A. Smith and whoever believes this, they should have been saying something back then. Don't say nothing about it now that he's got rid of a few players or decided to go in a different direction. This is football. And one thing about football, it's all about wins or losses. They don't care if a player is black. They don't care if a player is white or whatever he may be. If you can help this team win, he's going to be there. So Stephen A. Smith, that's just bad journalism on your part. He shouldn't have put that out there. It kind of made himself look kind of silly because the race card cannot be played in this instinct.
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously, if you've elevated or ascended to the professional ranks in any sport besides maybe hockey and NASCAR, you've had get somebody to you've depended, you've been in a foxhole with somebody that didn't grow up like you or doesn't come from the same background as you. So I think the only thing that's gonna boil down with Chip to kind of bring this NFL talk to an end is that he will have to exceed 10 wins. He's gonna have to get that team back to the playoffs.
Bingo.
I don't know if it's gonna work with these former Ducks being on there. The last guy that tried that was in Washington, and he tried to make it the Washington Gators.
Right.
And that didn't fare too well. But I'm a trust in Chuck, man. I mean Chip. I think he's got a plan, and I think to an extent, teams have to. I've told you before. We let the Redskins let Moss sit around on the roster for 2 or 3 years past his heyday, and I mean I can respect that. I'm not in the locker room, and I don't know what he was doing as a team leader and all that type of stuff. But I'm just amazed that you don't have another young up and coming guy to put in his place that can get around that 100-yard field a lot quicker than him. So I'm not with letting people sit on the team just because.
Right.
It should be some production tied to your presence.
I agree, my brother.
But last week, Broner was successful in beating John Molina Jr. Keith Thurman came through and got a victory in kind of stunning fashion in actually knocking down Guerrero. I hate to say it, I hate to admit it, but last week trying to finish off some duties for last week's show and getting home and having to do some things with my wife, I was not able to see the fight. I went to the NBC's website and they didn't have it where you could watch the full fight. I was kind of disappointed in that. And I was hoping that maybe they would rebroadcast it on their sports channel. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But, I don't know if you got to see it. You read up on it. What'd you think?
The thing about the fight, man, and I only saw the last half because, we were working last week.
Right.
From what I saw is I thought he really put on a good show. I don't know,
Thurman? AB or?
I'm sorry, brother. Yeah, you're right. Broner. I thought Broner put on a good show. I know he took some flack because, he didn't really take a lot of chances. But I thought he went back to what he's able to do was box. He was able to, use his skills, at its best. I mean, the last time he went in there with the brawler, Maidana, he got knocked out. So he was in there with another brawler, Molina, and he decided to box a little bit more. So I'm not upset with his performance at all. The only thing about it is I heard that, he was the first fight of the night. And
really?
Yeah, it was the first fight of the night.
Oh, yeah, I think that, yeah, I thought that's what I heard. It just didn't register at the time. But now that you say that, yeah, that's I heard the show, actually, I heard the coverage was bad. A lot of boxing fans in general were bashing the commentators. It looks like they had to walk out to ring music. It's a theme song.
Right, like UFC stuff, man.
It's a theme song from the guy that did Inception, Hans Zimmer, that does all the big-time movies. He's actually done the theme song for the Premier Boxing Championship or the PBC. And people were complaining about Albert. Not Herb Albert. Albert, whatever.
Marv.
Marv. I knew it was a 4-letter name.
Close enough.
So, yeah, I just heard that was the issue, was that it just didn't have the feel of, the HBO and Showtime cards.
Yeah, that's what and the thing about it is, this was the first time that, major boxers have been on network TV like that. So they need to actually, do some work, do some homework. But as far as the performances, I know that, your guy, Thurman, he looked pretty good too. Like you said he would. I thought Guerrero would, get to him, but he wasn't able to pull the trigger. But the thing about Thurman, I did see that fight in its entirety. He needs to really concentrate on being a little bit more defensive savvy. Yeah. He's so reckless in the ring, and some of those good guys are going to kind of get him, some trouble with, some counter punching. But I didn't know that he swells up pretty big, when he weighs in at 147 or wherever the fight was at. Yeah. I mean, he came into the ring like at 165 or something. So he's a little heavy guy. He's kind of heavy.
That could bode well for him in the future.
Right.
If he can't get the Floyd fight, which he covets, it might be a chance to move up. Like I said, I haven't seen the fights. I don't have as in depth, take as you do on it. I just, somehow I'm gonna check it out on YouTube or something. I will see it this Friday, following up the boxing on the new networks. It's actually Friday night is Spike TV's first card, and that will feature Andre Berto against Ohio Porter. Sean Porter is coming back to the ring after his last loss. So that card should be equally as exciting in my opinion. But tonight, boxing returns to HBO, and the Crusher, Kovalev, is back in action versus Pascal. Up in Canada, I believe. I think Kovalev is probably going to destroy Mr. Pascal.
Yeah, it's quite possible, man. That guy is a heavy puncher. So
Kovalev.
Yes, he is. So one thing for sure, if you get caught, it's gonna be good night.
Yeah, he's an efficient mover. Very heavy handed. Pascal, he looks great. Always comes in looking excellent, but I don't know. I think he may have shorter arms. I mean, he's just. I don't know. It should be a great fight, though. I mean, I think this is a step towards eventually getting another Canadian in there against Kovalev, which is Adonis Stevenson, is the fight that everybody really wants to come. So, Berto and Sean Porter. Berto's probably going to get banged around by Lopez. I mean, it's going to be a high contact fight. Berto is just, at this point, he's just a brawler. And I'm hoping, I'm pulling for him. Lopez is a tough guy, though. I know he had the good fight against the one Mexican guy that Floyd knocked out with the questionable punch. Ortiz. He had a good battle against him. So, like you said, boxing, you have some options this weekend. Friday night on Spike TV, and then also HBO with Kovalev. And
I think the kickoff to the press conference.
It
was today. It was actually on live stream, like on ESPN,
right,
CBS, and everywhere. So, looks like it's gonna take place. If I'm not mistaken, I think both of the guys came out in suits.
Okay.
They had their suits on, look, real business-like, and they look like they ready to rock and roll, man. Everybody's talking about they're working hard. Both fighters said that, Pacquiao said, I know you fans been waiting for 5 years and it's finally here. Floyd said it's not about being 5 years too late. It's a perfect timing for him. So I'm going to tell you, man, we're going to talk about this as, we lead up to it more. Floyd, I've never seen him look so serious about a particular fight. I don't know if it's because he's nervous. I don't know if it's because, a lot of people have been doubting him. But the guy looks like, back when he was 22, 23, he looks ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, I just saw the pictures of the presser today. I'm gonna have to go in. I really haven't heard what they were doing as far as the live, the reality series, the pre-fight series. I haven't heard when those were gonna kick off, but I think I'm gonna go on and order my my Showtime or HBO or both, and catch those. Those have to be some great episodes. We watching two of the best prepare for the biggest fight of all time or of recent history. I think Floyd is this is really, after the KO. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on Manny's KO against Marquez. It's gonna kind of bring the end of Floyd's legacy. That's always a big. That's gonna weigh heavy on somebody. So we can move on from boxing. We got a couple of great basketball discussions. I didn't even do a rundown thing at the beginning of the show, trying to get right into the topics because we were running behind. But we're gonna talk about some college basketball. We want to take a look at UK versus some of the best college teams of all time or recent history. First, we can get into some NBA. We got MVP changes or jostling. We don't have to spend a lot of time on that. We've been going hard in the paint on that whole argument, and everything is kind of, it's at that, like I said, it's under 15 games left, I believe, for most teams.
Yep.
First thing was my Spurs, man.
They looking good, brother.
My Spurs with 6 W's in a row just beat Toronto, another playoff team. Parker and Leonard looked alive earlier in the week, or was that in the last week against the Bulls.
Oh, yeah, they did, man. They looked very healthy.
That was the best. That was the floor general that I haven't seen in Tony in weeks or months. And Leonard, they were back talking about all of his freakish physical attributes. So it looks like the band is they're getting in tune.
They getting ready, man. They're getting greased and oiled up, man, because when they played Chicago the other day, they put on a show, man.
Right. Looking at Chicago, and this was something that got left off of last week's show as we ran a little long. I just keep looking at Coach Tibbs, and it looks like it's wearing on him with being outgunned as he runs into, these better teams shorthanded. D-Rose gone again. There was some comments made from D-Rose about returning, and, that kind of set off some different conversations. Do you think Tibbs could be considering, I'm ready to get out of here. This is getting old to me.
Yeah, how long has he been there? Maybe Coach Tibbs. He's a fairly young guy, when it comes to coaching.
Right.
So, he has a bright future.
That's his first stop as a coach, too,
there
right?
There we go. There it is, Wood. It's his first stop. I mean, he has a long career ahead of him. And maybe it's getting time for him to, make a change of scenery and go somewhere else. I will say this. I mean, he's leaving a lot, though, because, Joakim Noah is still young. Yet Butler, who's coming into, his prime of his career and steadily improving. It's just Rose. He can't stay healthy, Wood. I don't know why, but it's probably, answering all those questions about Rose's health and will they survive. And Tibbs reminds me of a kind of coach who just want to go about his business, do his job, and go home.
Right.
He's not really the flash kind of guy, so he probably wants to just, get away from all the fanfare and maybe possibly do something new. I just hope that Rose can get back and help and hopefully help the team, reach their full potential.
Right. It was just something I kind of tried to study their body language and whatnot, and he just looks like, he, like you said, he's a hard worker, blue collar guy, and he just seemed to be a little frustrated that, he's running out there outmanned, and these teams have all their horses, and he's missing his main horse, and he's trying to get it done. And for everything that I've seen, I mean, it's been a couple of playoff series where Rose was gone, and I mean, he had his team battle and win some games that they shouldn't have won. So I like Coach Tibbs. I hope that it works out that Rose can make it back, and they can at least, maybe they can't win it all, but maybe they can make it back with the full complement of players and at least have an interesting series. Something you got to know here about Utah picking it up out west, and I see them with 27 wins.
Yeah, man, and the reason why I want to give Utah some love, I know you was looking at my, my playlist, as I call it, my, item list, and like, what is he talking about? The reason why I picked Utah because they just went on a road trip and, was a few seconds from being undefeated, a 4-0 road trip. And I know that you really appreciate teams with some young guys who are getting it done. And, when you look at a guy like Gordon Hayward, kid from Butler, had real big fanfare. I know he was a free agent, maybe last year, and a lot of teams wanted him, but he decided to stay with Utah. I think Utah is an up-and-coming team. They're playing basketball the way it needs to be played. They're playing good, hard team defense. I mean, and if you look at the team, they have a bunch of young guys. They don't have anybody, maybe over 26, 27 years old.
Favors is just kind of now doing some of the stuff they've been waiting on him to do.
You got Favors out there, and you got Rodney Hood.
Right.
Over the, playing ball for them. And I just mentioned Utah. I wanted to give them some love for doing some things. They won a game last night against the Knicks. I mean, it is the Knicks, but they're just winning games. I think that finally, we always mention about teams who are staples in all different kind of sports, and I think Utah is a team who we want to see do well.
Definitely. Yeah, I have nothing against Utah. Favors, and I mean Hayward is a good player to watch. I want to see what he does, and it's good to have that team out west that kind of ties the NBA map together. As we work our way across in there with Oklahoma City and Phoenix. So
yep,
I appreciate it.
And don't forget, they got your buddy out there, your Michigan guy.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, I think he's learning something. I think he's moved to the bench now, spot back, or maybe he moves into a Jamal Crawford role as being the second unit, scorer, which that ain't a bad living. Because Crawford's has some, some 40, 50-point games. He's done a lot from that bench.
Yes, he has.
So, I like to see they're probably gonna be outside looking in this year, but
there are no playoffs at all. I just wanted to give them some love,
right?
For having a good week on the road, going 4-1, and being 3-1, and being a couple seconds away from going undefeated on the road.
Okay, let me look at the standings.
Right,
Utah,
right,
the Jazz.
Right.
So we also have a couple thoughts on Cavaliers beat up on Mark Cuban's Mavs, the Cavs versus the Mavs. Was that last night?
Yep.
And Mr. Amari Stoudemire, he wasn't too happy about that beat down.
At all, man. He was irate.
Reports are he went into the locker room and let some guys have it.
Right. And the thing about Stoudemire, I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, Amari, you just got to the team, right after the All-Star break, if I'm not mistaken. And I know that, you're elder statesman, of the league. But do you think that he should be the guy who's lashing out at his players, just getting there, so soon?
It was a questionable look once you brought it to my attention today. I was kind of busy, and this was one thing that I didn't really get to address, or didn't really get to look into until I noticed it was on the subject list or topics. Yeah, it's kind of awkward, but I mean, being that he is that elder statesman, I mean, he can't come right back in. Plus, he's from that. He started in the West as a player. I'm gonna be honest with you. I just want to get it out there from the beginning. He was adamant in the article, he mentioned or reiterated it a few times that he thought he could come there. I mean, that they're a championship bunch, and he chose to go there because he thought he could get it done with them. And I'm sorry to say it. I looked at some of his play last night, and I'm gonna say I'm not quite sure how he can get it done at this point. And I might have to question maybe he overvaluated. Or I'm sorry, I guess valuated is good. He gave himself too much credit.
Yeah.
With that team, I mean that team is in the running, but Dirk he's a little different this year. A little different, and then Rondo is from what I understand, he was already a questionable shooter,
right?
And now he's in a slump. So I just think Amari's saying the right thing, but he probably picked the best team that was willing to take him, unless he would have went to the Clippers.
Exactly. And Dallas. The thing about Dallas, they don't play any defense.
No.
They never been a very good, fundamentally sound defensive team. Carlisle, he's a great coach, and he's actually a defensive coach.
Right.
But he's never really had a team that, he can truly love and truly appreciate because, in Dallas, they're more run and gun. Dirk's not going to play any defense.
No.
Rondo, I just heard a story on him. He said he didn't play any defense the last 2 or 3 years in Boston. Why would a professional player ever make that kind of comment? I don't know. So, I mean, you're talking about two of your starters who a lot of the guys may look up to not being defensive strong points in their game. It's going to be tough for them. And I know Stoudemire thought he can get out there and possibly get a ring, but I don't see it happening now in Dallas. I just don't.
Nah, like I said, I know Dallas and the Clippers were two of the teams. I don't remember the third team I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that were looking for his services, but yeah, him 6 years ago, they probably are a formidable team, but he just doesn't have that extra gear to get to at this stage to fill in the gaps that they have. Last thing I'm going to say about it, he mentioned that the team wasn't making great or intelligent basketball plays or playoff type basketball, but Monte Ellis has never really, that's why he's not where he started, right?
Exactly.
So I'm sorry, I don't play with those guys on a nightly basis. I just watch from the from the couch like everybody else, but I'm just saying Monte Ellis, it's a reason why he's a 22, 23 a night guy that nobody really covets.
Right. And that's what it is, man. But let's I'm not trying to change the subject, but what about them Cavaliers, man? Are they just that good? Are they peaking at the right time?
127 points in a basketball game in this era, and Atlanta put up 130 last week, so maybe that kind of encouraged them to bust the score clock or the scoreboard. Again, man, we go back to that man in the middle of it all, man. I mean, LeBron just, the team is getting into its roles. They're learning them. They know where to slide and spot up. And I watched some of that guy. I did see some of it. LeBron was playing championship defense. And to our point that we just made, when your best player he was guarding Dirk.
Yes, sir.
And was shutting Dirk was having a tough time. So when your best player, and when the best player happens to be the best player in the world, and he's showing that type of defensive effort in game number 61 or whatever.
Yep.
It's only gonna get better from that.
I know, man. It just looks like with LeBron, some games he really wants to win.
Right.
And when he really wants to win and buckle down and lead by example, I mean, the Cavaliers are successful. I know I'm kind of jumping the gun, but I'm really looking forward to an Atlanta, Chicago, Eastern Conference championship, because I can remember a while back where Cleveland was down to like the number 7th or 8th seed. So now they're all the way up to number 2, and they're sitting pretty comfortably.
Right.
At number 2.
They got like a 4 or 5 game lead. Yeah.
Because Chicago is on a slide right now, and Washington is definitely not doing what they were doing, and Toronto, I mean, they're not winning games like they were. So I could see Cleveland being a number 2 seed, and nobody's going to catch Atlanta as a number 1 seed. So I think it's shaping up to possibly be Cavaliers, Hawks finals. Eastern Conference Finals.
I agree. The ECF is looking great. I'm actually very excited to see that series.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, I haven't been the biggest NBA guy in the last couple of years. I've told you that many times. But this series right here, this series right here,
right.
I'm excited because while to kind of further our discussion, while ATL doesn't have that one player, I'm still loving that team ball, that brand of team ball that they're exhibiting. They have 2 or 3 players who were, they're undersized. I didn't know Brand was still on that team either.
It's chilling.
But they have some different players that they can rotate onto LeBron, who can get in front of him.
Yep.
It's not be guys willing to make that contact with him.
Yep.
So I see it being competitive.
I do.
And to see Teague and Drew, Uncle Drew,
You know it.
Irving, to see that matchup, and that's this last thing I'm gonna say. What I like about Atlanta, they seem steady.
They do.
Like, they don't come down. I mean, they know where they're supposed to be. They're there. They're just well balanced and steady, and that's the type of team that could trip up a team that still is doing that one. All the offense run through one player.
Right.
So it's a perfect matchup. And I go back again to my Spurs I took last year.
Yes, sir.
Once now Atlanta doesn't have a Kawhi Leonard,
Right.
obviously, but they got a Danny Green and Korver.
Yes, they do.
So it's some similarities there, and like you said, I'm excited to see that ECF.
Yeah, man. It's. Let me ask you a question. Can Jermaine Dupri get like courtside seats? You know what I'm saying? You got Jermaine Dupri maybe can come out. You got let me think of some of those other old school Atlanta cats. Some of the old school Atlanta cats. Chili, TLC,
Dallas Austin,
LA Reid, and them.
They could sit the whole ABC right there on the baseline, and we'd be like, "Who are them cats?"
It's gonna be a regular, old school so deaf LaFace reunion, man.
Right.
Let's see what happens with that, and I hope Atlanta, realizes that.
When is Jeezy gonna make it? We got Toronto has Drake constantly there.
There we go, Reg.
Miami, you got Lil Wayne and Baby, and don't come out.
That's what we want to see, man. We want to see the old school dudes get some tickets and be on courtside.
Well, we'll have to somehow we have to get the word out on that.
There we go.
The West is still shaping up. But I'd rather move this conversation along to something that's pretty interesting, I think, on the college side of things, because we want to wrap this up, and maybe we're trying to wait on another couple calls. They may or may not happen. But UK, last week, I think, as we were actually doing the last show, they were in the process of taking down Florida to go and complete that 31-0 season. So today's all we talking about, as we work our way through these conference tournaments, is whether or not UK, where do they stand amongst the all-time teams? And I hate to jinx them, and this is kind of complicated because as you look into it, as you look into it, some of these players, and when we look at these older school teams, I'm kind of influenced by what they went on to do as pros. So I'm trying to eliminate some stuff to talk through. I went and checked out, I guess it was an article back in, actually this was 3 years ago, for CBS with the top 16 college basketball teams of all time.
Yep.
And I had it was only 5 that were in our generation, in our years. So I pulled those 5. We have at 13 was the 84 Georgetown Hoyas. Yep. They went 34-3. At 10 was the 1990 UNL. I don't know, they lost that many. 96. Number 8 was the 1996 Kentucky Wildcats. They went 34-2. Then we had number 6, 1992 Duke, who went 34-2. And then we have 1982 North Carolina that also went 32-2. How you think this team matches up against any of those? You can get into some of these rosters, star players.
Yep. Even
if it was some teams not listed here, who do you think would do well against them?
Well, first off, I'm gonna keep it Kentucky. In my opinion, the Kentucky team from 1996 would definitely not only beat this current Kentucky team, they'll win by at least 20 points. The Kentucky team from 1996 probably, if we think back, had arguably the deepest roster in college basketball history. I mean, you had 5 first-round draft picks. You had McCarty. You had Antoine Walker, Tony Delk, Derek Anderson, and Ron Mercer. Those are 5 first-round draft picks, alone on that team. And then throw another stat at you about that 1996 Wildcats team. They had 9 players from that team make the NBA.
Right. I forget about how stacked that team was, actually.
That was definitely the deepest team in college basketball history. I know you have some teams that people may say be better, but as far as the deepest team, it would be them. I mean, they won every tournament game by 21 points. And then in the finals, they end up beating Syracuse in the championship game 76-67. So I'm glad you brought that list. And I looked at all those teams and I looked at the players and everything. But I'm going to have to keep it in the bluegrass state and say this 1996 Kentucky team would definitely beat up on their little brother if they had to had a head-to-head matchup.
It's kind of hard to beat that. I got a couple of teams mixed up because I was trying to be way off the beaten path. We can come back to any of these teams and discuss that. I mean, obviously the 82 Carolina, had Jordan and Perkins, Daughtery, and big game James Worthy. So, I mean, obviously we could throw it to them. I tell you a squad that I run up against them with and be pretty comfortable. Just 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I take that 04 UConn team that had Ben Gordon, Rashad Anderson, Josh Boone, Denham Brown from Canada was coming off the bench. Then they even had Charlie Villanueva on the team.
Yeah.
So I'd be pretty comfortable running that unit up against this Kentucky team.
I'm glad you mentioned that team because that team right there, people can't remember or not. That team is gonna get up in your jersey.
Yeah.
All that running down the court and all those easy transition baskets, you're not getting with that team. That team's gonna play tough, hard-nosed defense. They're gonna lock down their man, and they ran some excellent sets to get a lot of open shots for that team. I can remember that team just like vividly,
Because Anderson was a beast coming off that bench as a 6 man.
He was a monster.
I was surprised he didn't make it in the league. and I mentioned he was the one I was thinking about a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about waiters.
Right.
I thought he was that guy that was a 6 man college player that he could have spotted up for somebody.
Right. And Calhoun, I mean, he's a coaching, mastermind when it comes to devising a game plan for, one specific game.
Right.
So that's definitely a team that could create some noise for this Kentucky team. And this Kentucky team, I think they win a lot of their games, not just on Corliss. Why did I think Corliss was going to be so good? But he was small.
He was small, man.
And he couldn't jump that high like Barkley.
Right.
But you had Day, Corliss, and you had, Oliver Miller.
Yeah, you had Big O. It was another
Mayberry.
Yeah, I think that's who I was thinking of.
That's when like we went to church on Sunday and we used to get home and I would be so excited to watch, those college guys play on CBS, man, because it was some of the best games.
Well, like you said, that Big East team, 2004. I even looked into the '99 UConn team with that mid-range game that Rip Hamilton was putting on people.
Putting it on them.
I don't think they had a deep enough team. I mean, all I could really find was El Amin at point, which the Twins probably, override him.
Oh, yeah, easy.
And Ricky Moore. That wasn't as strong a team as I thought. This Duke team, this 92 Duke team with Leitner.
Oh, that's a classic.
Bobby Hurley, Grant Hill, 3 pros. Thomas Hill and Antonio Lang were some of those great 4th and 5th men.
Right.
They probably, I'm going to say this. The Twins, is just my observation. Do the Twins just move at one speed?
I don't know. I agree with you. I really believe the Twins should have came out. I think they're hurting their draft stock.
Yeah,
It's
it just, when I watch them, they just don't do anything explosive. Now, they're great players.
Right.
And Calipari is getting them. He's challenging them almost every quarter,
Right.
Or not quarter, but I mean every half of every half. He's in their chest about attacking everything. But they seem bored.
Yes.
I think the one brother did need to come back because he didn't have his, much of an outbreak year.
Right.
But I don't know, man. It just seems like they just. I mean, now they play great defense, but like I said, maybe they just better than maybe they're just mature than everybody else. I don't know, but it just seems like they just move at one speed to me.
Yeah, the thing about the Twins, I don't know, man. I don't know how their game will translate to the NBA because you just hit the nail on the head. Every player not every player, excuse me for that. Most of the players in the NBA, you have to be explosive and you have to show some of that, motion to be able to get to the hole and do it in a fast manner. And they're just so methodical, man.
Yeah,
I don't know, but they do play good defense.
But 31-0 is 31-0.
Can't knock the hustle.
Right. So
No doubt.
feel free, anybody that want to get at us at the fifth quarter show. We could continue that conversation. If you have some other teams, any other arguments, call in next week. That can definitely be a topic next week. Is teams that would beat this year's UK. I'm trying to think if any other come to mind really quick. That team with Rashad McCants and Sean May. Who was point guard? It wasn't Felton. Ed. Little Ed, I thought was on there. The one from the point guard from New York. I can't remember.
Are you talking about? It wasn't. You said it wasn't Raymond Felton.
It wasn't Felton. It could have been, but I thought it was.
Or was
Ed.
it Williams?
Shaman, I think he was with Forte.
Okay.
I can't remember the guy. He didn't make it to the NBA, but he was like one of the last New York guards that they had.
Gotcha.
I probably mixed two teams together right there anyway, because McCants and one of them didn't seem right. But I don't know. It's a couple other teams. I mean, I really like the team chemistry that the Terrapins had that year when the couple of years where they were good with Baxter in the middle. The one point guard that was with LA for a while. That's when you don't have your notes ready.
Right.
Dang, what was his name?
I'm sorry. Who you say?
The Terrapins. When they had Booth, Prophet, Lonnie Baxter, I thought.
Francis?
I don't think Francis didn't win one, did he?
I don't think
They
so.
had the one guard. He just shot the real smart shots. He was a guard for the Lakers until last year, and he went up to Portland.
Blake.
Steve
Blake.
Blake. Yeah, Blake was on there. I like that little club right there. They were pretty good as an all-around team. Very physical team.
Very physical.
So we'll see. I just, like I said, some of these teams, you see what, the ones that I mentioned from the top 16 all-time list. I mean, these names, it's Hall of Famers on here. So
if you had to give a blueprint to one of these current NCAA teams, how do you, instruct them to stay close and beat this current Kentucky team?
I think this team will stay close with you because I think they don't have those explosives. They don't have Kimball Walker. They don't have
Right.
anybody like that that's just totally running past you.
Right.
So, I think you gotta obviously Billis and Jay Williams have broken it down, and the big thing now is to try to pull those the big men out onto the floor and either try to go around them or let other people go around them before they can rotate down. I guess you can have a shot at trying that. I think you got to have a good shooting night, low turnovers. The Twins, even though they do seem to move at that one speed, they do anticipate well and get into passing lanes. And
Yeah.
I've seen them get several breakaway steals for dunks and layups and stuff. So I think you're just going to have to shoot well. But I think once they get to the Arizonas, the Kansas, who's some other, I I would like to take a look at a team like Wichita State. They got an experienced team.
Yeah, they do.
Gonzaga's well-rounded. It's a couple other teams that could get in their way, but I just think once we're getting to that point where they've been undefeated for so long that it could just be a matter of time catching up to them.
Is Calipari a great coach or a better recruiter?
Obviously, he's a good recruiter, but I think he's a great communicator.
There we go.
A great communicator and a great encourager. And
what's up, everybody? Chuck here again with another update for you. I'm going to come at you with a little bit of NFL news. Jameis Winston, it was reported that a week ago he made an effort and actually did meet up with Roger Goodell, trying to prove his maturity, as he puts it. And DeMarco Murray, it's also been reported that he himself has reached out to Chip Kelly, saying that he really wants to go to possibly go out there to Philly. Percy Harvin was cut by the Jets. Brandon finalizing the trade for Brandon Marshall. Trent Cole ends up in Indianapolis, linebacker from the Eagles. Jabal Shear from the Browns ends up signing with the Pats. Kind of a sore loss for myself. But the Browns picked up Brian Hartline as a wide receiver, and we're hoping that him and Andrew Hawkins can be a pretty good duo. We're looking forward to some decent basketball games this weekend. We got the Cavs and the Spurs. We got the Wizards and the Grizzlies. Chicago kind of hoping that the Spurs can knock down the Cavs as they remain only one game behind them. And then NASCAR is in Phoenix this weekend as Kurt Busch's suspension has been lifted and he is eligible for the chase. Back to you guys.
Topics we like to say one last thing I forgot to mention at the top of the show was that this week did start off with the anniversary of Biggie Smalls being shot and for him passing away. So as we get into this quick entertainment break, we're going to check a little something new out on the Fifth Quarter Sports and Entertainment Show.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
So we'll just wrap this up with a brief entertainment segment. We got three things to get through. If you've been keeping up with it, it's taking some time to be resolved legally, but the estate of Marvin Gaye was awarded $7.3 million for blurred lines being too close for some to Marvin Gaye's original "Gotta Give It Up." What you think on that, man? I mean, I've heard it played side by side. Now, when I first heard the song, I didn't think it was sampled because Pharrell was involved with it, but I thought they were close. Some people, my mother, for example, she said she didn't notice it, which I'm shocked because she was around in that day. What's your thoughts on it? I mean, you think it's original, rip off what?
I don't know it's a rip off, but I do know it definitely is kind of similar. The way that the music comes across, I think it's fairly close, man. And
have you heard them played side by side?
No, I have not.
Okay, because I've caught it on a couple different shows where they did it.
And is it not? It doesn't sound the same.
It's a difference in there. When you put them side by side, to me, it was a distinct difference. But I think what catches me is that and you mentioned it, I think when Pharrell made the song, I think he tried to make it I thought he tried to create a song that had that feel to it. The little ad lib where he screams, I mean, that's classic Marvin Gaye.
Right.
But I think he used some instruments and the little percussion that's going throughout. I just felt like he was trying to use some elements of songs in that day. And another thing, I'll let you get back in. Another thing that kind of let me think he was at one point in time doing a homage to earlier music was the song with. I thought in that time, I thought he was trying to recreate those sounds.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how anybody can be any more clearer than you, because I thought that he was on this Marvin Gaye vibe, and he wanted to make some soulful type Marvin era music, because that's what it sounds like. But what happened was, it blew up so big, and when you get big money involved like that, everybody wants to get paid. And
Right.
and just listen to you. So they did get awarded. The family got awarded.
Yeah, the family today they were awarded the 7.3 million, and that it does seem like an appeal is gonna come and whatnot, and maybe they try to pay it out some other way.
Right.
I'm surprised they really let it get here, being that Pharrell has become such a focal point as a musician.
Right.
Yeah, maybe he would have thought a way to avoid it
I
being
would
this
think
public.
so.
I'm surprised that they let it go down this where the courts had to hand down the decision. Maybe it was some other way to avoid all this. Anything else on that?
Did the song win a Grammy? Real quick.
I don't think it did.
I don't think it won.
I
I
don't
can
think it
remember
did.
T.I. up
Maybe-
there smiling at the Grammys.
Yeah, I would have remembered that.
I don't think.
I think the other, Up All Night to Get Lucky, and I think the Daft Punk song might have outshined it.
Seriously. Wow. Okay.
I know that song did win some awards. I'm
Okay.
not sure if it was Grammys or not.
Yeah.
My research didn't go that far.
That's
but
all good.
Anyway, the state, they feel like they've been made whole. They didn't. Chuck just confirmed they didn't win anything for it. I don't know about you, man, but it's some Get Hard. The new movie from K Hart's next comedy is on its way to theaters. Get Hard. Him and Will Ferrell. Personally, the trailer or the ads aren't doing a whole lot for me as far as creating the excitement for me to go see it, because it seems like he's playing the same role that he's played in the last several pictures. So I'm just bringing this up because you didn't see Wedding Ringer, did you?
No, sir.
I didn't either, and I just don't really. Now I will say this: I heard him in an interview, and he said he had to. His thinking is, I got to get through these types of movies, enough of them, so that I can get to the challenging roles. That as he's becoming more of an actor, he's got to do this stuff first to be able to do that.
Okay, Kev. I mean, all right, it sounds good, but yeah, man, I don't know about that. I mean, Kevin Hart, he is what he is. I hate to put him in a box, but he pretty much is what he is. I think that, hopefully he can get to the point where he can get him a nice TV series and do some things like that. But I just don't see how he can be considered as a serious actor, because all his roles is pretty much kind of him doing silly comedy type stuff. And how can you ever get over that?
Right. Do you think it's his height? I mean, that's really holding him back as far as, because, I mean, you can only put so many different shorter actors around him. I mean, it's hard for him to be the tough guy, the physical guy. I'm going to ask that question, and I'm going to really close it out with my main point in comparison to another guy that did it. But do you think his height is kind of his Achilles? I mean, it's what's holding him down?
Yeah.
In the range of stuff that he can do.
It's holding him down a lot. I mean, when I look at Kevin Hart, because there's people always put out there that, he outsold Eddie Murphy,
Right,
when it comes to his, his stand-up tour,
concert movies
and stuff of that nature. So, I don't think he can be an Eddie Murphy. I mean, he cannot play Boomerang. He cannot do, a lot of movies that Eddie have starred in. I couldn't see him doing like a Beverly Hills Cop or any of 48 Hours, because Kevin Hart's movies are all about being silly and trying to get the big laugh, where I'm not saying Eddie Murphy was, not being funny in his movies, or even Martin Lawrence. I think they were just actors that, were doing comedy. But with Kevin Hart, he's really said it if I chopped it up too much, but it's just something about him that's just everything is so over the top and animated.
Is he relying on the formulas too much?
Way too much.
Answers itself.
Way too much, and I want the guy to succeed and do well. Wait, I don't want the guy. The guy is stop turning down those big paychecks and get some of those more serious roles.
Like I said, he did mention in the interview that I think it was even with the Breakfast Club. He said, he said he's figured it all out. He said he knows he said, I'm smart at this stuff. I know this stuff inside and out. He does have a plan. The only thing he said he wouldn't do was play a gay role. But he said the other serious stuff, he says he's getting on it. I'm just going to say this and we can move on. I feel, and you mentioned Eddie Murphy. I told you this 2-3 years ago in the parking lot and leaving to go home. I feel like the one thing that none of these guys are getting right, Martin Lawrence being in there, Jamie Foxx to an extent, what you just said, Eddie Murphy went to serious roles and good scripts, and in the middle of it, and with 48 Hours, Trading Places was a comedy, but I'm just saying now the comedy is first. In the script, they pushed the comedy first.
Yes, sir.
Martin pushes his characters, Blue Streak and some of that earlier stuff. They push those characters, and I just feel like Eddie Murphy really he took some real scripts and just put his comedy into it, and it worked better for him. I think his formula was better.
It worked a lot better, and that's why Eddie is always going to be an A-list when it comes to Grammy, presentations and presenting Grammys to people. No, not Oscars. I'm sorry, guys.
Academy Awards.
It's getting late. Academy Awards to folks, because he was truly considered as an actor.
Right. Definitely. Like I said, we won't keep on it, but K Hart is like the salesman, the mouthy salesman in every movie, and I just think, I'll catch some of these on DVD or whatever. Lastly, I just want to bring out the fact that Kendrick Lamar's new album has popped up on, you can pre-order it on iTunes. You know me, I slept on Good Kid, Mad City, admittedly. And have you seen the album cover too?
No, sir.
I guess it's in front of the White House, and it's a couple of trap or turned up rappers with the gold fronts and no shirts on, and I think some of them are holding stacks of money and stuff, and I think a couple of them are holding bottles of champagne and whatnot, and it's just kind of I don't know, it's saying a lot of things, but I just thought it was a great album cover. It seems like he's not going to try to capitalize on his popularity that he's gained with, performing with Imagine Dragons and doing some of the more fan-friendly stuff. And I mentioned this like back in show 2. But it's coming. And this might be one of those albums where I probably don't go in late that day, but I mean, that's where I'm making a stop at Target on the way home to pick up a physical copy.
I'm glad you just dropped that jewel on me, man, because that album cover is hot.
It's kind of hot, ain't it?
That's hot, man. I mean, that looks very good. And
that just make me want to go get it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how anybody else feels, but I know, we in this room right now, that's hot. That's definitely fire, man. And the thing about Kendrick Lamar, I thought my buddy was going to call in today because he had a good piece on Kendrick Lamar. And I was like, we're going to talk about Kendrick today. And I just want to know how you feel about him, man. He said something to me that was very, kind of interesting, because I said, well, I like Kendrick and I like J. Cole, but they're boring.
Thank you.
They can't understand you got conscious rap and you want to make us.
You said J. Cole and who else?
Kendrick. They're boring. They're both kind of boring.
Oh, you said Kendrick was boring.
Yeah, I mean, even though I like Kendrick.
Okay.
But
you mean from Good Kid, Mad City, he was a little boring on there?
Yeah, he's just boring, period, because, I mean, like, I always take this from you. You always say, if you want to take a ride to a casino or a ride down to Cincinnati, take your significant other to dinner, or just take a
Go to the
hour
outlet.
Outlet. Those are the guys you ride to,
Right.
Kendrick and J. Cole. And I was telling my buddy, I was like, they gotta be able to get me at a nice, event where I'm want to dance and want to have some fun, and they got to get me up out my seat so I can dance. All of the greats can do that. All of the greats have been able to get you out your seat and dance.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, you got to stop thinking of them as that kind of person, because if you realize Eric B and Rakim, Rakim really wasn't, I'm gonna get you out your seat and dance either.
Right.
But he was considered an all-time great. And he was saying that because the reason why they all just stick out like sore thumbs, Kendrick and J. Cole, are considered boring to me, is because nobody else is doing what they're doing.
Right.
And what we're saying, more or less, and everybody's on this trap rap and braggadocious type turn up rap. And that's why you don't get up and dance from, because you're brainwashed. That's what he was telling me. And I'm gonna have
him to call in.
I'm gonna have him call in, man, because I'm telling you, he really dropped a bomb on me, and he made me think like, that's what it probably is. I'm up here thinking about the only way I can get up and dance is if I hear Drake talk about what Drake does, and Lil Wayne, and what's the other guys, Ray Schmurder.
Ray Schmurder. Right. Those guys.
Them guys,
the no
man.
flex
So
guys.
I need to appreciate Kendrick more, because I like Kendrick a lot. J. Cole, not as much, but I still want Kendrick to mention or get me up and dance like you just said. The late great Notorious Big did.
That's right. Like I said, I'm very excited to pick that one up. I'm gonna get a physical copy. Yeah, that's hot. And you mentioned it to me that he was looking for some live instrumentation on this album, and that's kind of why it's taking time to get there. So I don't know if you can listen to any of the album already. I'm gonna ask this question. I don't know how much business you do on iTunes, but some of the people shopping on there, some of the people that we're talking about as this album hit iTunes, do you think they should allow people to rate these CDs before they even come out? I mean, these CDs, they do the pre-orders, and that's the big thing now. And in a month and a half, you may only be able to hear 2 songs, and people are rating the album as 4 and 5 and making comments. I mean, do you think they should allow somehow? I mean, it'd be simple for them to flip some switch and not disallow people from rating the album.
Yeah, man, it's just this new day and era where everything is available so immediately, and I just want to go back to the old days where you just hit the nail on the head, where I'm in line for the brand new Notorious Big album at midnight. I've not heard anything about it. I just know it's about to drop, other than the singles they may have dropped on the album. And people, previewing music and hearing things beforehand and giving their 2 cents. And they're really not music people.
Right.
And it kind of taints people's views on what's actually good or what actually needs to be looked over. So I don't think they need to flip that switch, brother.
Gotcha.
They really do.
Let me ask you this one question before we shut it down.
Take your time.
With the big albums, the Jay-Z albums, and the Nas maybe, Eminem, either whoever, buying that album, that physical copy, how many songs have you listened? What's the most songs you listened to before leaving the parking spot after opening one of them up?
You mean like back in the day, the big?
As you've been buying albums, how many times have you said? What's the average number of songs that you might make it through before you actually put it in drive and leave?
Recently,
just whenever.
Back in the day.
Any project that you bought that had you sitting there.
I'm gonna tell you, man, when Nas dropped his first album,
Illmatic,
I was really, oh man, that was a great album. That was a great album. And I'm gonna tell you how great his album was. I couldn't wait for the next one to come out, right? So when his next one came out, it was written. Am I right or wrong?
It was written.
That was his next one, and it dropped. It was at midnight, man, and it was like I was in one of a shady neighborhood, and I promise you, man, I just sat there all night, man, and listened to that album.
It was written.
It was written.
Okay.
The second one, the whole night, man, and almost, over and over again, and just hypnotized by, Nas. And I was probably brainwashed because it was written really wasn't a classic like Illmatic.
Right.
But I can just remember that album right there, because the reason why I remember it, because maybe 2 days later somebody had broken into my car and they had took my radio. They had took a lot of things, but the only thing that really mattered to me was they took my it was written CD.
All right. Well, we're gonna shut it down on that note. Me, I probably I may get through a song and a half. Depends on some of my favorites used to have that Primo intro song,
Right.
which was like a half or 2/3 of a song. You get through that quick, and then you can listen to the next full song. Then I'll probably go on and put it in drive and get on out of there.
Right.
Any last words for this episode?
Only thing, man, if real quick, I like to bring up, man. I know you guys might have heard of what happened in Oklahoma with the fraternity SAE. Chanting those racist
Singing the song.
About whatever, some negativity. But I just want to really just put a word out there for Mr. Eric Stryker. He's the captain of the Oklahoma football team. Right after he had seen that video of those guys doing that, or the fraternity doing that, he immediately went on a rant himself and posted it and was dropping some profound language. But the next day he thought about it and reconsidered some things, and interview, and spoke real eloquently about his distaste for some of the things that those guys were doing, and that how those same guys are talking about how we're not are not allowed to enter fraternity, but those are the same people who are actually shaking our hands, taking our pictures after a football game. So I really just want to say big up to Mr. Eric Stryker for being a leader and taking a stand on something. And at first he thought it was not the right way to do it, but then he cleaned it up and went on there and talked very, very intelligently about the rights and wrongs about racism. And anytime a person can actually stand up and for something that's right, I'm going to always try to if I can put them out there in the forefront, because I think that's huge as a young guy. And a lot of times we always want to complain about things, but we don't never want to do anything about it. So big up to Mr. Eric Stryker, and I'm a firm believer if you let anything just get by with and not say anything about it, there won't be any change. So thank you for that, sir.
Yeah, I think I did see the video, and I saw a guy, another black guy, a black kid. I think he's already graduated from Oklahoma, and he was like the second person to be in that fraternity that was featured in that video. I don't want to lengthen this out because you already hit on it. I think it's just great that we're in a day and time that where anytime somebody gets out here and says something sideways, that there is so many avenues and outlets for people to go out there and speak equally as loud. I think it's good that some of these people get outed, and we see what impact this has on those guys as they move forward. They try to say it was alcohol driven and whatnot, but you at your most honest when you drinking. So I don't
believe it.
I mean, I done had a beer or two before, so I'm way to shut out the show. Like I said, we tried to keep this one a little shorter, but we wanted to work some calls in. We had a couple. We'll try to work Chuck's updates in now, and we'll get this one posted out there as soon as possible. Like I said, we'll be on Wednesday nights. We got a few weeks of changes coming up. We want to do about 2 or 3 more in this format, and then we want to look into moving to some other places so I don't have to send these links out here. Thank you for tuning in. It's the 5th quarter sports and entertainment show.
Peace.